Most travel lists show you beautiful places. This one is built to help you choose. We are starting in Kraków, ending in Ojców National Park, and along the way we will separate the places that only look good on a thumbnail from the ones that can actually shape an unforgettable trip. This matters now because traveling Poland has never been more popular or more crowded in the obvious spots. Most list videos hand you pretty footage, but skip the decisions that actually change your trip. When to go, what to skip, and how to connect one place to the next without wasting a single good morning. So we are going to move through this country the way you would actually drive it, south to north and back again, with a quick, honest verdict at every stop. Stay with me, because the 3 places most people skip are the ones you will remember for years. Number 1. Kraków. For 1,000 years, this was Poland's royal capital, and unlike almost every other major Polish city, it came through the Second World War with its old town nearly intact, which is why it feels less like a reconstruction and more like a place that simply never stopped. The postcard shot is the main market square, one of the largest medieval squares in Europe, with the cloth hall in the middle and the uneven twin towers of St. Mary's Basilica above it. On the hour, a lone trumpeter plays the hedgehow from the taller tower and stops mid-note, a tradition the whole city knows by heart. But the smarter Kraków is the one you reach on foot just beyond the square, up to Malbork Castle on its limestone hill above the Vistula and south into Kazimierz, the old Jewish quarter that is now the city's most atmospheric place to eat and wander after dark. Here is the practical part. Kraków is not just a destination, it is your southern base. Wieliczka and the Tatras, and even Auschwitz are all-day trips from here. Give it 2 full days minimum. Sleep inside the old town or in Kazimierz, and do the square early before the tour groups arrive. Number 2. Warsaw. If Kraków survived, Warsaw did the opposite. By 1945, the capital was rubble, deliberately flattened. What you see today is one of the most extraordinary comebacks in Europe. An old town so faithfully rebuilt, brick by brick from paintings and photographs, that UNESCO lists the reconstruction itself as World Heritage. So do not come to Warsaw expecting a frozen museum. Come for the contrast. You can stand in the Royal Castle Square in the morning and be among glass towers and rooftop bars by evening, with the Stalin-era Palace of Culture looming over all of it like an argument the city is still having with its past. The smarter way to feel Warsaw is to leave the old town, walk the Vistula boulevards on the wild green eastern bank, or cross to Praga, the district that was never destroyed and still feels raw and real. Practically, Warsaw rewards 2 days. It is your transport hub for the whole country, and it is at its best in late spring and early autumn when Łazienki Park is in full color and the riverside comes alive at night. Number 3. Gdańsk. Up on the Baltic coast, this is where Poland looks north instead of south, a 1,000-year-old port that grew rich as part of the Hanseatic League, and it shows in the tall, narrow merchant houses lining the long market, their facades painted in cream and gold and rust. Walk down to the Neptune Fountain and along Mariacka Street, where the amber shops glow in the windows. This stretch of coast has traded Baltic amber since antiquity, and it is still the thing to bring home. But Gdańsk is not only beautiful, it is one of the most important cities of the 20th century. The Second World War began here, at Westerplatte, and the movement that helped end communism in Europe, Solidarity, was born in these shipyards. The European Solidarity Center tells that story better than any guidebook can. Here is the practical move. Treat Gdańsk as the heart of the Tricity. A short tram ride takes you to Sopot's long wooden pier and beaches, so base yourself in the old town, give the coast a full day of its own, and do not rush the waterfront at sunset. Number 4. Wrocław. Built across a dozen islands where the Oder River splits and rejoins, this is a city of bridges, more than 100 of them. And it has one of the most beautiful market squares in the country, ringed with candy-colored townhouses and anchored by a Gothic old town hall. But the detail people fall in love with is much smaller. Scattered across Wrocław, tucked beside doorways and drainpipes and lampposts, are hundreds of tiny bronze dwarfs, the Krasnale, each one different, each one doing something absurd. They started as a nod to an anti-communist protest movement and became the city's unofficial treasure hunt. The smarter way to see Wrocław is to give yourself over to that hunt. Let the dwarfs pull you off the main square and across to Cathedral Island, the oldest part of the city, which is still lit by gas lamps every evening. Practically, Wrocław is an easy, walkable, student-priced city in the southwest, perfectly placed between Kraków and Berlin. 2 relaxed days here, and you will wonder why it is not more famous. Number 5. Zakopane and the Tatra Mountains. This is where Poland gets its scale. The Tatras are the highest range in the country, real, jagged, alpine peaks, and Zakopane is the town at their feet, the unofficial winter capital with its own highland culture, its own steep wooden architecture, and a buzzing main street called Krupówki that fills up the moment the lifts open. The famous image is the cable car to Kasprowy Wierch, or the green-blue water of Morskie Oko, the lake everyone wants on their feed. Here is where the planning actually matters, more than anywhere else on this list. The mountains make their own weather. A clear dawn can be cloud by lunchtime. The most popular trails fill fast in summer, and seasonal closures and conditions change what is even possible. So go early, check the forecast the night before, and decide honestly whether you want the easy lakeside crowd or a quieter high trail. The retention payoff is real. Most people only ever see the postcard. Time it right, start before sunrise, and you get the mountain almost to yourself. Number 6. The Wieliczka salt mine. Just outside Kraków, people have been digging salt out of the ground here for some 700 years. And over those centuries, the miners did something extraordinary. Far underground, they carved entire chapels out of the rock salt. Altars, statues, reliefs, even chandeliers whose crystals are not glass but salt. All of it lit and glittering more than 100 meters below the surface. The centerpiece, the Chapel of St. Kinga, is a full underground cathedral, and there are chambers with green-black brine lakes, so still they look like polished stone. This is a UNESCO site, and here is the thing you must know before you go. You cannot wander it on your own. Entry is by guided tour only. The famous route is a long descent down hundreds of wooden steps, and in high season, the slots book out. So reserve ahead, wear a layer because it stays cool down there year-round, and pair it with Kraków as a half-day trip. It is the easiest, unforgettable thing you can do from the city. Number 7. The Auschwitz-Birkenau Memorial and Museum, near the town of Auschwitz. This is not a site, and it should never be filmed like one. It is the preserved site of the largest of the Nazi German concentration and extermination camps, where more than 1 million people, the vast majority of them Jews, were murdered. Today it is a place of remembrance and a museum, kept exactly as it was found so that it cannot be denied or forgotten. If you come, and many travelers feel they should, come prepared to be quiet and to give it time. Walk slowly, read the names, and let the scale of Birkenau, the second and larger site, settle in. Practically, entry is free, but a timed reservation is essential, especially in summer. A guided educational tour will give you far more understanding than going alone. And you will want at least half a day. Treat it as the anchor of that day, not a stop between other things. Photograph little, remember much. Number 8. Malbork Castle. Rising in red brick above the Nogat River, this is the largest castle in the world, measured by land area. A vast fortified city built by the Teutonic Knights, the warrior monks who once ruled this corner of the Baltic. It is really 3 castles in one, layered behind moats and walls and gatehouses, and when the late sun hits all that brick, it turns the whole complex amber and gold. The famous image is the river view, with the towers reflected in the water. The smarter way to experience it is to go inside and give the audio guide its due, through the knight's refectory, the cellars, the courtyards, because the scale only makes sense from within those walls. This is a UNESCO site and an easy day trip on the train from Gdańsk, which makes it a perfect pairing with the coast. Allow a good 3 hours. Time your photos for late afternoon when the brick warms up, and you will understand why this place looks less like a building and more like a small medieval country. Number 9, Toruń. Here is one of Poland's quiet miracles, a medieval Gothic old town that came through the centuries almost untouched. All dark brick churches and merchant houses and a riverside that glows at sunset. This is the birthplace of Nicholas Copernicus, the man who moved the Earth out of the center of the universe, and the city has never let you forget it. His house, his monument, and a leaning tower you can lean against are all part of the walk. But the thing people actually fall for in Toruń is the smell. This is the home of Polish gingerbread, pianiki, baked here for more than 700 years, and the scent of it drifts out of shops all over the old town. The smarter visit is the slow one. Cross the bridge at dusk for the classic skyline view, then come back into the lanes for warm gingerbread and an empty evening square. Practically, Toruń sits neatly between Warsaw and Gdańsk. It is an easy half day to full day, and it makes a lovely low-key break from the bigger cities. Number 10, Poznań. This is where Poland began, the cradle of the Polish state more than 1,000 years ago on the cathedral island of Ostrów Tumski. But the city most travelers love is the old market square, one of the most colorful in the country, ringed with merchant houses in pink and green and gold, and crowned by a Renaissance town hall. And every day at noon, a small crowd gathers in the square and looks up, because 2 mechanical goats emerge above the clock and butt heads 12 times, a 500-year-old piece of civic theatre that the whole city still turns out for. The smarter way to enjoy Poznań is to lean into that everyday charm. Try the local croissant, the rich Rogel Świętomarczyński, and wander out to Stary Browar, an old brewery turned into one of the best design and shopping spaces in Poland. Practically, Poznań sits right on the line between Warsaw and Berlin, which makes it a natural stop. Time your morning to be in the square at noon for the goats. It is silly, it is wonderful, and it is pure Poznań. Number 11, the Białowieża Forest. Far out in the east, on the border with Belarus, stands something almost nowhere else in Europe still has. A fragment of the primeval lowland forest that once covered the whole continent. Never cleared, never planted, left to grow and fall and rot for thousands of years. It is a UNESCO site, and it is the last refuge of Europe's largest land animal, the European bison, the Zuba, brought back here from the very edge of extinction. The famous image is one of those huge, shaggy bison standing in the mist between the trees. Here is the smarter and the necessary way to see it. The strictly protected core of the forest can only be entered with a licensed guide, on foot, in small groups, and that restriction is exactly what keeps it wild. So book a guided dawn walk, bring patience and quiet, and understand that the magic here is slowness. This is the most remote stop on our list, deep in the east, and it is precisely the kind of place most travelers skip, which is the best reason of all to go. Number 12, the Masurian Lakes. In the northeast, the land dissolves into water, more than 2,000 lakes, many of them linked by rivers and canals into one great connected system. fringed with forest and reed and little wooden jetties. This is Poland's summer playground, the land of 1,000 lakes, and it has a completely different rhythm from the cities. Slower, sun-warmed, lived on the water. The famous image is a white sail crossing a wide blue lake like Śniadwy, the biggest in the country. The smarter way to experience Masuria is to get onto the water yourself, even for an afternoon. Rent a kayak, take a sailing trip, or just ride a tour boat between lakes, because from the shore, you only ever see the edge of it. History hides here too. The Wolf's Lair, Hitler's wartime headquarters, lies in these forests and makes a sobering half-day. Practically, this is a summer destination. Come between late June and August, base yourself near Giżycko or Mikołajki, and build in time to do nothing at all. Number 13, Lublin. This is the largest city in eastern Poland, and for centuries it was a meeting point, the place where the road from Kraków and Warsaw ran on toward Lithuania, Ukraine, and the wider East, a genuine crossroads of cultures. That history is written into a compact, atmospheric old town that sees a fraction of the crowds further west. The quiet showstopper is inside the castle, the Holy Trinity Chapel, where the walls and vaults are covered in Byzantine Ruthenian frescoes, Eastern religious painting inside a Western Gothic church, a combination you will struggle to find anywhere else. The smarter way to read Lublin is as a city of layers, both luminous and dark. The Majdanek Memorial on its edge is one of the most intact reminders of the war anywhere in Europe. Practically, Lublin is your gateway to the underrated East. It is alive with festivals in summer, and because so few foreign visitors make it here, it still feels like a discovery rather than a checklist. Give it a day and let it surprise you. Number 14, Łódź. Say it like Łódź. In the 19th century, this was the engine room of the region, a textile boomtown that exploded almost overnight into the Manchester of the East, all red brick mills and factory chimneys, and the grand palaces of the industrialists who got rich on cotton. When the industry collapsed, Łódź could have become a ruin. Instead, it reinvented itself, and that reinvention is the whole reason to visit. The spine of the city is Piotrkowska Street, one of the longest commercial streets in Europe, lined with restored facades, cafes, and bold street art murals that turn entire buildings into canvases. The old Poznański factory has become Manufaktura, a huge culture and shopping complex inside the original red brick. The smarter way to see Łódź is to read it as a story of fall and rebirth. This is also the home of Poland's legendary film school, the cradle of its cinema. Practically, it sits dead in the center of the country, an easy hour from Warsaw, and it is the best place on this list to see how a Polish city remakes itself. Number 15, the Bieszczady Mountains. Down in the far southeastern corner, where Poland, Slovakia, and Ukraine almost meet, the country runs out of towns and turns into something close to true wilderness. The Bieszczady are gentler in shape than the Tatras, long rolling ridges, but their signature is the Połaniny, high open meadows above the tree line where you can walk for hours with nothing but grass, wind and sky. This is the wildest land in Poland. Bears, wolves, lynx and bison still live here. The villages are few and far between, and at night the skies are so dark. This is one of the best places in the country to see the stars. The famous image is a lone figure on a Połanina ridge at golden hour. The smarter way to take it in is simply to slow down to the pace of the place. There is no rushing the Bieszczady, and that is the point. Practically, this is the trip for solitude. Come for hiking and emptiness, not nightlife. Expect basic comforts, and you will be rewarded with the fewest crowds and the biggest silence on this entire list. Number 16, Ojców National Park. We end small. This is the tiniest national park in Poland, but it punches far above its size, and it sits less than an hour from Kraków, which makes it the perfect bookend to a trip that began there. The Prądnik Valley cuts through white limestone, and over millions of years water has sculpted that rock into cliffs, ravines and caves, and crowned one outcrop with a strange, slender pillar known as Hercules Club. Above it all stands Pieskowa Skała, a Renaissance castle on a crag that looks lifted straight out of a fairy tale. The famous image is that castle on its rock. The smarter way to enjoy Ojców is on foot, following the valley trails between the caves and the cliffs, where the whole landscape feels miniature and secret. Practically, this is the easiest possible day trip from Kraków. It is gentle enough for almost anyone, and it is the ideal soft landing after the wild east. Proof that you do not need scale to be unforgettable. So that is the journey, 16 places from the royal streets of Kraków to the quiet limestone valleys of Ojców. If there is one lesson in all of it, it is this. The best trip is not the one with the most famous names on it. It is the one where every stop earns its place, with beauty, with story, with the right timing, and with a reason to keep moving. So if you could only choose 3 from this list, here is the formula that almost never fails. Take one great city, take one wild escape, and take one place that feels personal to you. One you had never heard of before today. Chase that combination instead of chasing every postcard, and you will come home with a trip, not just a camera roll. If this guide helped you shape your route, the next Epic Travel 360 film is on screen now, and it goes even deeper into the places most travelers still miss. Safe travels. We will see you on the road.